Hi ho, everybody. Harry here with the Around the Horn for the month of August with the Microsoft 365 Nation contributors, the hardest working man in show business out there. Josh, how you doing, man? You're back home in New Mexico.
I'm good, Harry. You're catching me in between 5 trips, 4 down, 1 to go, but I'm here.
Quick, I always like a personal launch, and then we're going to get right into the topic. But if I told you I was going to drive in November after Ingram won from Denver to Austin, would the typical route take me through your city? Am I thinking the right way?
The typical route would, if you wanted to stick to highways, if you were like me and you want to take 2-lane roads the whole way, then I would say no, it wouldn't. But yeah, you certainly would typically come through Albuquerque and then wind your way southeast to Austin. There's lots of options there. So I think I've made that trip 6 different ways maybe over the years.
Yep.
But the most direct route would not take you here. The fastest might. The one that stayed on the interstate would.
Yeah, that's probably what I'll do. Well, you know where I'm going with that, my friend, is keep the light on and the sofa ready, because I'll make that night number one. I'm getting old. I don't want to drive straight through, but let's.
You never send me. You need to email that to me with dates, because then I'll plan around it. By the way, that's a 14-hour drive, the most direct route. Coming through Albuquerque, you could expect an 8 and then a 10-hour, or sorry, a 7 and then a 10-hour day.
Yeah. But let's get down to business. So the topic this month is, and you really do a great job of vendor relations, and I mean that sincerely. You know, you really invest forward into your relationships with vendors, and there's a thing called market development funds known as MDF. So first of all, if you could define MDF and then maybe give us a use case or two, and you know how maybe you've done that. Go.
Okay, well, yeah, it's market developed funds, or you like to call it making do funds. It's money that you can request and receive from vendors. And there are 2 steps, at least with every vendor, but you fill out a request, you justify it. It's got to be applied to marketing, but depending on the vendor, that can be a very broad set of things. I've literally had them pay for training that way, production of professional materials back in the day when everybody spent money for trifold brochures and business cards, to events. Everything from a lunch and learn to an open house has been covered over the years, even to having a booth in a trade show. So it's pretty broad remit, and most of the vendors, and by far the most experience we have, are with SonicWall and Datto, but most of those vendors are pretty good about covering a range of activities, products, and things that you might want to be involved in. And we've always been lucky. I think we always kind of hit above our weight with that. Our best years with SonicWall are 100 grand, and we would routinely see a couple of grand a year of MDF, if not more, from them. And with Datto, cut those numbers in half, but they're still true. It's closer to the same. Yeah, about 100 grand, get a couple grand a year out of them. I'm surprised. Now, all of the vendors have started tracking ROI from those events better, and later we'll talk about some little tricks about that. But they're funds that you can reach out for, achieve, get, and use to market.
Yeah, here's my experience with MDF, and it's a different striped tiger, but I saw it a couple of different ways. So Microsoft, all my stories are 10 years old, but back in the day, the Microsoft Small Business Specialist community, you remember the beloved blue badge. And Joshua, again, you may recall, you may not, but for a couple years, they did some really amazing contests. Took, a winning MSP took 10 of his employees, Wade DeVoe out of Texas, on a Grand Canyon rafting trip and so on. So the contest and a new director comes in, and he went straight to MDF. He said, let's give money to the small business specialist using some criteria, because they know how to spend it best. Instead of, one contest here, we gave away 3 pizza slice cars, those little hybrid thingies. The other year was the Grand Canyon trip. And he came in and basically his idea was, we'll give people what they want and they like and want money. And so if you went through, and I don't remember the procedure, but if you went through the procedure, you got cash instead of being entered in for an amazing contest with lots of different prize levels and so on. So I thought that was good. Now, this is back at good Microsoft partner program days, good Microsoft. But I've also seen fraud, and this related to, and I'll autonomize the parties, but this related to a Microsoft OEM group, and they were looking to fund some of my activities, and they would go to the vendors, we call it tin cupping. And so they would go tin cupping, and it was truly marked as MDF funds for some nefarious vendor that was not even a direct hit with the topic I was talking to, and they got money. And my job was to basically have a handout on the table for what was a fairly significant amount of money. And I personally kind of put that over, maybe fraud's a bad word, but I put that over in the, really category. Like, that wasn't the intent of those funds, if you know what I mean. The funds are supposed to be used a little bit more. Have you heard, and again, just at a 50,000 foot level, but have you heard in the industry of maybe MSPs taking the money and buying a new, doing something else? Instead of a lunch and learn, maybe they went on vacation. Just asking, bro.
No, I don't even have anecdotal evidence of such an activity. I certainly wouldn't say it doesn't happen, but one of the things that I said earlier that is happening is kind of an enforced ROI track on these meetings. And in the case of ours, I did photos. We actually videoed. The most recent thing we did was an open house here 2 months ago, I think. And we did a video of one of the speakers in our conference room. We live streamed a little of it. I took photos of the event. We had a sign-in sheet. It would have been reasonably difficult to fake that, not moon landing hard, but pretty hard to fake. I don't know, Harry. I guess it's happened out there. That little piece of trivia, I think you might have just started an urban legend there, but I'm not aware of that happening.
Okay. All right. Yeah, it does happen. And by the way, it's not restricted to our industry. You'll also find examples in the manufacturing community. I can assure you there's examples in the pharmaceutical industry, which is one of the reasons why they have more and more regulations regarding sales and marketing activities in that field. But my friend, final question, where might people see you next? What's your next show? Is it Channel Pro on September 5th in San Jose, or are you fitting something in between now and Labor Day?
No, it's next week. I'm actually going to Toronto to the ASCII show. First of all, I haven't been to Toronto since Pierre Trudeau was in charge, so that's been a while. And I really have a fondness for the Canadian ASCII membership, so I made a promise that the next time, which was a year ago, that I had the opportunity to go. So I'm flying out Tuesday through Friday. I'll be at that ASCII show in Toronto. It's at a Marriott property too, so I called ahead and got a big conference room, they call it a hospitality suite. So I have a big space to have a little party there. So I'm looking forward to meeting the people there, to spending an extra day in Toronto, just being in Canada for a little while. Got my passport. Of course, I speak pretty good Canadian, and I think I still have, let's see who knows what this is. I do. I've got my opening loonie or 10 loonie bill.
There you go. Hey,
that might get me a coffee or a beer. Anyway, so yeah.
All right. Well, we can't top that. We'll make that the final word. Friend, have fun. And I will see you on the road this fall. No doubt about it. Thank you, sir.
All right, Harry. Thank you.
All right. So, folks, I did a little bit more research on market development funds, or MDF funds, after our check-in with Joshua this month. And I wanted to double click down into a couple of topics. So one is, I went behind me to the bookshelf and pulled out one of our, I think, a famous business book, Making It Big in Small Business, 06, where we highlight some of the movers and shakers in the small business specialist community in the SBS era. And the point about this is MDF funds come up in these conversations. Again, that was the circle of sort of the Hall of Fame. And a lot of those people grew their computer consulting practices, now called MSPs, but with a relationship with the vendor with MDF funds. We have done that once or twice to coach some MSPs and get them to the next level. So I can attest to the solidness of this relationship. However, a couple things going on. One is there's tiered levels and partner programs. So, as you might imagine, the MDF funds are readily available to top producers. And in fact, that's an incentive for you to become a top producer. And so, it's not going to be just what I would call the registered member. You're going to see a little more money at silver and a lot more money at gold, for lack of a better way to kind of present a partner program tier. The other thing would be, it tends to be, my experience has been, it tends to be event top heavy. So the MDF funds, I don't know if it's the culture, the genre, whatever is making that happen, but it tends to be that they want you to do a lunch and learn or something with in front of a customer audience. So you're the MSP, you're going to be talking to the customer, and it's typically a lunch and learn has been my experience. Maybe a booth on the floor at a local customer-facing technology show like Interface is an example. So I just wanted to kind of add on that there's good evidence of the strategy with MDF funds as a partner. And it's essentially almost like a funding round. Might be the final word on that is, I'm not big on investor-backed companies in our space because of the dilution that can be suffered. So this is like getting a small investment round without dilution to your equity. That's my two thoughts. Got my pocket MBA noggin on today. Have a great day, everybody. Thanks.